The legislative session is over, but educators are already setting next year's agenda, setting their sights on reform that they say will help save jobs and keep closing the achievement gap. Also, there are plans for big changes to schools in North Hartford, but not everyone is embracing the ideas. We're here to talk with a group of residents and students who are helping to get the community on the same page so students succeed. Welcome to an education edition of The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez. We've been hearing a lot over the past few months about the budget and layoffs, both on the state and local levels, and no group is paying more attention to the threat than teachers. They are focused mostly on a policy you've probably heard about called last in, first out. Advocates for teachers tried to get lawmakers to ban the policy this past session. They say to make sure the most qualified, not only the most senior teachers, are left in the classroom. Fox Connecticut's Anthony DiLorenzo takes a look at their push.
Connecticut parents complain that a school layoff policy is not making the grade when it comes to keeping the most qualified teachers in the classroom. It's called last in, first out, and the last teacher standing when the pink slips go out isn't necessarily the best.
Our Teacher of the Year this year happens to be relatively new to us and is non-tenured and therefore got one of those layoff notices back in March.
That example, just one flaw in the system, according to Derby's top educator, who, like other cash-strapped schools, are being forced to cut staff levels.
We want to be in the business of hiring and supporting great teachers and not telling them they may not have a job next year.
Education reform advocates came to the Capitol to call on legislators to do away with it. They argue seniority doesn't mean the best.
We don't change state policy in Connecticut the way that other states have, and we are falling behind.
Hartford schools also have layoffs looming, even after 200 teachers have left in the past 2 years. Some were the best and the brightest. Its superintendent says the system is broken, but the Connecticut Education Association argues last in, first out is an issue for the unions, not the lawmakers.
Superintendents in this state have every opportunity to put this issue on the bargaining table, and many already have.
Alex Johnston is CEO of CONCAN, the Connecticut Coalition for Achievement Now, which is an education reform advocacy group based in New Haven. Alex, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Laura.
Alex, I mean, let's answer her question about, why not leave it to labor negotiations? Why not leave it? Why get lawmakers involved with who gets fired or not?
Well, I think we're seeing right now exactly why we need to do that. We've got a budget crisis, and layoffs are rolling out across the state. Just the other day, Bridgeport announced it's got as many as 430 layoffs coming, 150 of those potentially teaching positions. If we don't have a change in state policy, there's no flexibility in the short term to deal with this situation. And so when those layoffs proceed, we stand to lose some of our best teachers. And meanwhile, we know, even with the existing evaluation system, that we've got some teachers who've been found to be incompetent, who've had an opportunity to grieve, but who will stay on the job while Teachers of the Year are laid off unless we make a move at the state level.
I mean, is that because, some people might suggest that that's because they're protected by the union, or?
Well, they're protected by the structure in local contracts that says last in, first out. And, in something like 3/4 of the contracts in the state, seniority is the sole or the primary factor governing layoffs. That policy has been put in place over the course of many years. We are now facing a crisis with lots of layoffs, and hopefully this is a crisis that will pass, but we need in the long term to change the whole way we're connecting teacher evaluation to these consequential decisions like layoffs.
Right, teacher evaluations, that was another big topic during the session. And I know that people would like to think that if a teacher has been there for so long, if they are the one with the most seniority, that they must be the best teachers.
Look, we might like to think that, but I think the reality is we don't have an evaluation system that makes that clear connection. So right now we're only identifying the absolute extremes of low performance in our evaluation system. But we're not even using that information to inform layoff decisions. But, in many districts we have just either you're competent or incompetent. And something like 97% of teachers in Hartford several years ago were competent, while only, a third of the kids are actually achieving at grade level.
So your efforts to get this policy banned this year were not successful. How will you change it next year? And why not just address then the evaluation system?
Well, look, I think we're going to see continued layoffs, and there are still opportunities for the legislature and the governor to take action.
Yeah.
And, God forbid if we don't see the state budget go through, and obviously we had 2 bargaining units that have voted against it, there's going to be a whole new game then around even more cutbacks. And so it'll be that much more important through a special session perhaps to address this. But clearly the long-term fix is changing the teacher evaluation system statewide so that it's focused on student achievement growth and that it's connected to decisions like layoffs.
What are your concerns if that state budget doesn't get through in terms of how it might affect educators?
I think it's going to be, if that doesn't go through, it will be drastic. When you look at the Plan B budget that's been put out there, the entire technical high school system, is at risk. That system has made huge strides in the last few years. I think it's a scenario that most folks in the education world have not even wanted to contemplate.
You bring up the technical schools, and we certainly saw lots of people from the VOTEC community talking out at the town hall meetings. We saw lots of students, lots of parents. What will, maybe you could explain, because this was something that we wondered a lot about, what will happen to those students? Will they just be back into the general system, or what?
I don't think that the Plan B budget was sort of worked out. I think it was a Plan B budget, so I haven't seen, a budget implementer that would explain that, and I hope we never have to. But presumably there would be, who knows? But those students are in schools that are working by and large now. They've had great strides, so we certainly wouldn't want to see that happen.
Right. Something we talked about before the show, while I would agree that certainly finding the right person is something that should be done thoroughly, there has been some criticism that the governor has not yet appointed an education commissioner yet. And some people think that is holding up Connecticut's ability to get things done, particularly to go after federal funds. Is that a fair criticism, or?
Well, look, it's June. We're sort of 6 months in, and obviously everyone would love to have a permanently appointed commissioner and to be able to move forward in a definitive direction. But I do think it's essential to take the time that you need. And if that's the time that's necessary, and we end up with someone who's going to be the kind of bold leader that we need, and really, the commissioner and the State Board of Education have a tremendous power to move this state forward in a positive way on public education. That power has not been used, and we need to have someone who will take that opportunity and really go for it.
What sorts of things are you particularly looking for?
Well, several years ago, the State Board got the authority to intervene in districts that weren't making progress. It has not really used that authority. It's just now starting to do that in Wyndham. There are, frankly, other districts that are stuck right now, and the State Board has authority also to intervene on this question of layoffs, and has declined to do that. So there are lots of things that the State Board can and should do, and frankly, the State Board needs a commissioner, a permanent commissioner, to function properly.
Now, are they taking suggestions or from groups such as yours? Or?
Oh, I think I've been very impressed with the extent to which the governor and his team and the State Board have been reaching out. They're looking across the country, and they're looking in-state, and they're open to any ideas. So consider this an advertisement for the job. I believe the posting closes at the end of June.
All right. Well, coming up, you're going to stick around. ConCan's Alex Johnston is going to stay with us to continue our talk about the state of education in Connecticut. That's coming up next.